Hotgates gamers from around the world, strategy battle gamers and lovers of the Hobbit hobby, welcome to a very special edition of Adventures in Arda. Here for another Hotgates Gaming Battle Report, looking at Hobbit strategy battle game, and once again we're joined by the unriddable cool Steve of Top Table Wargaming. How's it going, Steve?
Very well, thank you.
And we've got something very exciting planned for you guys today. As you can see, we are in the halls of Meduseld. It's a little bit chilly in here, isn't it?
Yeah, they need to put the heating on.
Need to put the heating on a little bit, and it smells a little bit as well. I think they need to get the cleaners round. But we are going to be doing a very special scenario for you guys using the amazing terrain piece, for once not made by Steve.
Not mine.
It's not yours. This is actually Rick Fryer's Meduseld, which you will have seen maybe in some of the Hobbit SBG content I've done on the GBHL podcast. Okay, now we're going to be doing something very special here from the old Battle Games in Middle-earth magazines. Now you've got all of these, haven't you?
Yeah, I got them when they came out. Great magazines, fantastic.
And we're actually going to be looking at number 51 from here, and this has got a special scenario in it which is for Meduseld. Now there are a couple of tweaks that we've had to do, which we'll go through when we explain to you the special rules of this game, because it's not strictly Hobbit SBG, is it?
It's a fun little side game, isn't it?
We have given it a little bit of a play test, and so that we can try and make it work for you guys on the camera. But the scenario is called Restore the King. Now I think that there's nothing else to do really than to get down, show you our amazing terrain piece models, and explain to you how this Adventure in Arda is going to work. Welcome to Restore the King. Welcome to Edoras and Meduseld, the great hall of Theoden, King of the Rohirrim. For long now, the halls of Theoden have not been the same place that they were in years gone past. For Theoden's mind has been overthrown by the power of Saruman in his tower in Orthanc, and his mind has been riddled with the words of the witless worm-tongue Grima himself, who has become the aide of the King of Rohan. But hope truly remains for the Horse Lords, for arriving at the gates of Edoras, the White Rider, Gandalf himself, joined by the three hunters who have tracked the hobbits across the lands of the Horse Lords, have arrived with one intention: to bring Theoden's mind back and to rid Edoras and Meduseld of the will of Saruman. So the game Restore a King from Battle Games in Middle-earth 51 is actually played on an 8x6 grid. Now we haven't got that exactly here, however what you should be seeing in the video now is a little bit of an overlay of how this game is going to work, the way that we have managed to do it. There are 7 grid squares going across the hall this way, and then we've also got 9 going this way, and you'll see from our setup just exactly how we are going to play this game. So what we're going to do is talk you through what each piece does in this very special scenario. The forces of good in this scenario consist of our very own Gandalf the White. We've also got Aragorn, we've got Legolas, and we also have Gimli here. In this scenario, Gandalf the White is solely focused on his task of ridding Theoden's mind of the will of Saruman, so he will actually lose automatically any of the combats that he finds himself in against the thugs of Grima. And the mighty Aragorn, to show that he's the greatest warrior of his age and in Middle-earth, he will get +2 to all of his dice rolls in the combats in this scenario. And of course, loyally following Aragorn, we've also got Legolas and Gimli. Now both of these warriors of Middle-earth, they both get +1 to their dice rolls to win combats, but they've also got a couple of little special rules in there as well. So Legolas, to show that he is a nimble elf lord, he gets to move 2 squares in this grid game. And he also, if he does manage to get knocked down, when he stands back up, he can move as normal to represent his agility. In the meantime, to show the stoic nature of the dwarves, if Gimli does lose a combat on a 4+, he will not back away as normal. He will actually stay in his grid and not be knocked down. What's important to note with the forces of good is that should they lose a combat, they cannot be knocked down unless they cannot withdraw a square, and they won't be able to withdraw a square if they are blocked off and they cannot move directly back after losing a combat. So with that, we are going to show you what they're going to be up against. It's Grima and his thugs. And for the forces of evil, we have got Grima and his thugs. So there are some special rules for these guys. We've got Gambling back there. Of course, he thinks that he is loyally defending his liege lord, his king. Now, he also gets +1 in the combats. In the meantime, the thugs fight exactly as normal. However, if an evil model does lose a fight, it will not only move back a square, but it will also be knocked down. And when you're knocked down in this game, in this scenario, it means that when it comes to your movement phase, you can only stand back up. You can't then go on to move. Grima is at -1, but he is the only model who can move diagonally. Now, models can't fight when they're in diagonally adjacent squares. You must be directly adjacent, either forwards or to the side, and that's the way that all of the models, bar Grima, have to move in this game. So there's nothing left for it but to get this scenario, Restore the King, started. As you can see below, this is how the forces of good and the forces of evil set up. So we have actually set up a couple of the thugs out on some of the side columns here. We've got the forces of good, the 3 hunters, and Gandalf the White himself just coming in through the entrance of Edoras there. Back at the other side, we of course have the throne, and we're going to say that this square here where Gambling starts, that is the adjacent point to try and rid Theoden of the will of Saruman. Now, only Gandalf can do that, and that will happen after fight phases. There are 3 phases in this game. You've got a priority phase, just as per normal. You've also got a movement phase, where you can move the 1 grid, either forwards or sideways, unless you're Grima, where you can go diagonal. Then you also have the combat phase, and you must resolve combats individually. So if there are 2 models on either side adjacent to Gimli, he will fight each of them individually, which does become part of the tactics. Now, the forces of good here have got 25 turns to try and get Gandalf the White adjacent to Theoden, and then in 2 subsequent turns win a roll-off effectively versus Saruman as they wrestle for control of the mind of Theoden. There's nothing left to do but to get this game started. The first thing to determine in this game is who is going to be taking control of Gandalf the White and the forces of good, and who is going to be taking control of Grima and his thugs on the other side of the hall. So Steve is going to roll a dice. On a 4 to 6 he's good, and on a 1 to 3 he is evil. And he's going to be playing Grima and his nasty thugs, which is highly appropriate. First things up in this scenario, we need to roll for turn 1 priority. The best of luck, cool Steve.
Good luck.
Here we go. So, Eve will set the bar with a 3, and it's a 1 to the forces of good, and therefore priority is going to go to Grima and his thugs. First thug's just going to move out to the side, 1 grid square, and the next thug is going to come out and do exactly the same. Next thug, he's just going to move up 1 to the front there, and Gambling's just going to be moving up 1 as well. And now finally, Grima is going to move up that 1 place too. So first up for the members of the Fellowship, Gimli is just going to be moving up 1 grid square to the front, and Aragorn's just going to be doing exactly the same. Gandalf the White, in the meantime, is just going to move 1 square behind Aragorn. And Legolas, with his elven agility, is just going to be moving 1 grid this way and then another 1 forwards. And that is the Hall of Theoden, King of Rohan, after turn 1. That's 1 turn of the 25 done. Who is going to get turn 2 priority? Let's see. And it's going to go to the forces of good. Again, Gimli is just going to move up 1 square to his front there. And Aragorn's going to follow his lead, keeping Gimli's flank safe and secure. Next up it's Legolas, and he's just going to be moving up his 2 squares forward into this position there. And it's time for Gandalf the White to try and focus on his objective. He's going to move up behind Aragorn, trying to keep himself protected there. And with that, we're going to go back over to Grima and his thugs. So first of all, this thug here, he's meeting the challenge of Aragorn, and he's going to move to the square adjacent to Aragorn, ready to fight. Now remember, everything here is unarmed. It's unarmed. So when they fight, they don't kill each other. It's not that kind of game. But they are trading blows on the route to the king. And same again for this guy, that thug, That warrior of Rohan has marched up to face the challenge of Gimli the dwarf. Next up, Grima moves up 1 square. And Gimli's going to move up 1 square. Now, one thing that we're going to do here, so all of the tables and fireplaces and everything, they are all passable. Now, anything that's knocked down, we are going to replace with an appropriate Hotgates Gaming dice as earned by the patrons of the channel. So if you do see a Hotgates Gaming dice in black, that will of course represent the evil models that have been knocked down. As you can see, Gamling has walked forward there, and we've only got 1 more to do. It's a simple move, so we'll do it straight away. The final thug advances forward. So there we go. It means that we're going to go straight to the combat phase. Now, because I have priority, I'm going to have Gimli versus this Rohirrim thug first of all. So it's a straight roll-off. There's no fight value in this scenario, but Gimli does get +1. So what does the thug get? What does he set the bar with? He sets the bar with a 3. So Gimli needs a 3+ here. And he gets a 3, which goes to a 4, which means Gimli wins the fight. Now in this instance, because the thug is evil, he will back away 1 grid square, but then he will be knocked down. So we will replace him with a HGG dice with a 6 up to represent that, so we don't scratch our models. Next up, just peeking through the rafters, we have got Aragorn, of course, the mightiest warrior of his age. Means he gets +2 to his dice roll. So let's see, what does the thug get? He sets the bar with a mighty 2, which means I think Aragorn wins regardless there. So again, the thug has to be pushed directly back 1 square, and at this point we're going to remove him and replace him with that Hotgates Gaming dice to signify the fact that he is knocked down. Now, being knocked down is quite important in this game because you can pin an enemy model by landing on the same square, which is why we're using the dice, so we don't have models balancing on models. But that is Theoden's Hall. Into the second turn, 23 more to go. Can Gandalf do what he needs to do? We're going to go for turn 3 priority. So, Grima's evil thugs get... We say evil, they're just, you know, their loyalty is confused at the moment. And it is going to go to the forces of Grima. So, with the evil forces getting the priority, they can stand their guys back up. But that does cost them their movements. The dice are removed, and those first 2 thugs are back on their feet. So this thug here is just going to support his buddy and move up behind there. And next up we've got Gamling, who is just going to move forward 1, running, balancing across the top of that spit there. And the cowardly Grima is going to stay exactly where he is. So it's going to go over to the 3 hunters and Gandalf the White. So it's the turn of our heroic hunters, and the stoic Gimli, the dwarf, son of Gloin, is going to move forward and engage this thug there. And Aragorn is going to leap forward and try and take down his foe directly ahead of him and try and wrestle him to the ground. Gandalf the White here, wary about trapping Aragorn in his combat. He's just going to move 1 to the centre column there. And finally Legolas, with his elven agility, moves forward 1 and then sideways 1 to catch that thug unawares on the flank. So this is the Hall of Theoden King. After the movement phase, nothing left for it but to go to those combats. Once again, Gimli is going to start things off. He's keen to get the kills here in this Restore the King scenario. So the thug opposing him is going to roll, and he's going to set the bar at a 4, which isn't bad. Okay, so Gimli gets +1 to his dice roll. He gets a 2. Now, as a force of good, if you lose the combat, you only back away. You don't get knocked down unless you trap yourself. However, Gimli does have a special rule, because he's a dwarf, that on the roll of a 4+, he does not back away. So, can he get that here? 50-50 chance? He doesn't, so unfortunately, Gimli is going to move back 1 grid square. Next up is the turn of Aragorn, and can Aragorn do it versus the thug? Okay, so thug rolls and gets a lowly 6. So Aragorn does need a 5+ here to ensure that he wins it, but a 4 will match the dice roll. Oh, it's only a 3. So Aragorn is going to get pushed back a single grid square, and that's not good for the Fellowship. It's going to come down to the Prince of Mirkwood here in this turn 3. So he's going to roll first. He's going to set the bar at a 4, which becomes a 5 because of the +1. So what can the thug get?
Yes!
Oh no! So as you can see, the Rohirrim are well overpowered, and as a result, Legolas is going to move out into that flank there. So a particularly good turn for Grima's thugs. There's nothing left to do it but to roll for turn 4 priority. And it's going to go to Gandalf the White. So again, taking the lead, Gimli is going to rush forward with his axe. He's really trying to outdo Legolas here, and he's going to charge that Rohirrim thug. And Aragorn's just going to move 1 forward to that position. And Legolas, he is just going to move his 2, and he's actually just going to position himself on that table there, watching the advance of Grima. And Gandalf the White, he's going to have to make a sideways move here, just 1 towards the left flank. So the first move is Gamling rushing forward, and he's going to perch himself on the logs there, getting himself out of the fire. And that thug there, he's just going to move across onto the fire. And Grima's actually going to stay exactly where he is, trying to deny the path to the King of Rohan. So first up here, it's going to be Aragorn trying to re-establish his title as the mightiest warrior after losing to that Warrior of Rohan thug there. Okay, so what do you get? You roll a 2, and Aragorn takes it. So the thug is going to be pushed back a single grid square, and as a result he's going to be replaced by a dice. And next up, over on their right flank, Gimli's going to try and do exactly the same. He won't be outdone by the elf here. So here we go. What does the thug get? He gets a 5, it's pretty good, but Gimli rolls a 6. Oh, he gets a 2. So he would be pushed back, but remember his special rule. He does have a special roll. So on the roll of a 4+, he stays where he is. Yeah. And he does. So Gimli doesn't back away, which could be quite important, and that is our Hall of Meduseld. Let's roll for the next turn priority, which is turn 5. It's pretty good. And that's going to go to you, because we are drawn priority. So priority is going to go to Grima and the Rohirrim. So the first thing the Rohirrim are going to do is stand that thug back up onto his feet. Next up, Gamling's just going to move in front of Aragorn there, trying to block him off. And the next thug is just going to be moving forward 1 onto those logs. And again, mindful of his prize, Grima is going to stay back, protecting the corrupted mind of Theoden. So once again, the first combat is going to be Gimli versus the Rohirrim thug. So can Gimli do better this time? What does the thug get? He gets a 5, it's pretty good. And it's better than that even with a +1. So we need to see whether Gimli gets moved back or not. On a 4+, he doesn't. Oh, but he does. So Gimli must withdraw 1 grid space. It's Aragorn versus Gamling. Now remember, Gamling is slightly better than the thugs. He gets +1, so it's effectively just +1 here for Aragorn with his +2. So you get a 4, it's pretty good. But Aragorn is going to take it. Now this is a situation we haven't seen before in the Halls of Meduseld. Because Gamling cannot back directly away because of the thug behind him, he is going to instantly be knocked down. So we're going to remove him and replace him with that black HGG dice. And finally, it's Legolas versus the thug down here. So what does the thug get? Legolas bounding off the table into the combat. He gets +1, remember. Oh, when he takes it there. So the thug is going to be knocked back flying into the pit of fire. We're going to replace him with a dice now, and that ends turn 5. So much, much better in some ways for Gandalf the White and the 3 hunters. Nothing left to do but to roll for turn 6 priority. Could really do with this. It's pretty strong. Well, you rolled a white dice. What's that all about? I rolled a black one on this occasion. It's the wrong way round. So it is going to go to Grima and his thugs. Okay. So first up, this thug's just going to move forward and pin Gimli back. Next thug is just going to move forward into the flank of Aragorn there. So next up, in the fireplace, that thug is just going to be standing back up. And Gamling's going to be doing the same, engaging Aragorn. And once again, Grima is going to stay exactly where he is. So only Legolas and Gandalf to move. Legolas is going to move back. He's going to retreat a little bit and try and help out Aragorn by going into the side of Gamling. And Gandalf, he's going to stay where he is. He doesn't want Aragorn to be down and getting pinned and trapped. So he's going to stay back. And already 6 turns have gone past. So which way will this game swing? Place your bets now, and we're going to go into the combats. So it is the combat phase, and we're going up into the halls of Meduseld. And we're going to start things off here with Gimli, is that right?
Yep.
So it was your priority, you're starting off with Gimli. So what do you get here? You get 1, which means Gimli is going to win. So you are going to back away.
1 square.
And you are going to be replaced by the dice to represent the fact that you are now knocked down. So the next one we're going to do is actually the Thug versus Aragorn here. So the Thug sets the bar with a 6, it's pretty good. But that is going to match it because of the +2. So remember, it was priority to Steve and his thugs. So on a 1 to 3, it's going to go to evil. On a 4 to 6, to the forces of good. And it goes to evil, and Aragorn must back away. And with Aragorn defeated, that leaves Legolas trying to take on Gambling. Now remember, these guys are matched. They are absolutely matched. So, both get +1 to the dice roll. Gambling sets the bar with a 3, which goes to a 4. Oh! And Legolas loses, and it's not going particularly well here for Gandalf the White and the 3 hunters. Legolas moves back an inch, and there is the Hall of Theoden. Gandalf the White not making much progress. We are going on to turn 7. Let's roll for priority. Who's going to get it? It's a 6. And it's a 1. And it's going to go to the thugs. First of all, we're going to stand up this Rohirrim thug. Just there. This thug here is just going to move across 1. Trying to push Gimli backwards. Gambling is going to back up 1. Just to that position. And this warrior Rohan is just going to move out of the fire into the logs. So next up, Legolas, he is going to lead the charge this time. He's going to move his 2 to get himself directly opposite and facing Gambling over in that position in the hall. So Aragorn's going to jump off the table and he's going to go to 1 square just behind Legolas here. And Gandalf the White is just going to move up 1 square to there. So with Grima and his thugs getting priority, he's chosen to go with the fight versus Gimli first. Can Gimli do something here? Let's see. So the thug, he's going to roll and he gets a 5. It's pretty good. +1 here for Gimli. Ooh, so he takes it with a 6. Now because the thug cannot back away, he's going to be replaced with the dice to represent the fact that he is knocked down, and hopefully Gimli gets to go first next time and pin that dude to the ground. Next up, it's the Rohirrim warrior standing on the logs. He's going to chop down at Legolas here. What does he set the bar with? A mighty 5. It's pretty good, but +1 for Legolas equals. It's spinning. Oh, it's beautiful. What a wonderful moment. So he's going to be replaced by a dice because he'll be knocked down because he can't back away. So again, some good news there for the 3 hunters. So Legolas, having fended off 1 thug, now he has to contend with the bodyguard of the king, Gambling himself. Can he take him down? Gambling rolls. Remember, it's +1 to his dice roll. Gets the 6. So Legolas needs a 6 to force the roll up, but he doesn't get it. So Legolas is going to back away a single inch, which isn't the worst thing in the world, into that position. And that is our overview at the end of turn 7. So slow progress. It's important that they get priority here for the members of the Fellowship. It's very, very important, and you'll see why, because we have done a practice game of this before. So I know. Okay, here we go. Cool, Steve. What'd you get?
It's nice.
It's pretty good. It's a 5. But it's not as good as this. Hotcakes Gaming Dice 6. Ready? I believe in it. No, I didn't actually believe in it. My stomach went a little bit when I was doing it. And that's never good. So it's going to go to the thugs and the forces of evil. And of course the first action is to stand the guy up who is standing on the logs. Next up, the next thug is going to jump to his feet with Gimli tied from battering him to the ground, and he's going to get back up, shielding himself from Gimli's blows, and he's going to try and have another go. And Gambling and Grima are going to stay exactly still, so there's only a couple of things left to do for the members of the Fellowship. So Legolas is just going to move 1 across here, into that position, and Aragorn's going to move over to fight Gambling in that position. He's also going to be adjacent to another thug. And next up, Gandalf is going to move up, and he is going to move into this position here, like so. So with that, we move on to the combat phase, and it's going to be the turn of Gimli, son of Gloin, fighting against the Rohan thug. Can he knock him back to the ground?
Yes.
He certainly does. Okay, so that thug there is going to be replaced with a HGG dice to show that he has been battered to the ground. So next up we're going to do the thug who is leaping down from the pile of logs against Aragorn. So can he get it? Let's see. He rolls. He gets a 4. It's not bad. Ooh, it's not as good as that. So again, he is going to be knocked down. He stumbles over. He didn't have sure footing when he made his strike. So Aragorn parries him off and he stumbles to the floor. So can Gamling restore a little bit of pride here? It's not been a great turn. Let's see what he does. He gets +1, remember?
It's not
Because
good.
it's a 3. Aragorn gets +2. It's anything but a 1. Ah! So it's going to be matched there. Now it was your priority, Steve. So on a 1 to 3 this goes to evil. On a 4 to 6 it goes to good.
Yes.
And Aragorn gets it. And of course Gamling is trapped. So Gamling is going to be replaced by a dice. And I'm telling you guys now who are watching this, even if you have no idea what's going on, if the Fellowship gets some priority here, it's going to be very, very good for them. So we are going into turn 9. Let's see. Can they get it? You roll. You get a 4. It's good.
Yes.
And it means you're going to get to stand back up and the Fellowship aren't going to get to do any pinning. So of course, having 1 priority, that is going to give Steve the opportunity to stand back all of his guys, starting off with Gamling. And then he's going to do the next 2 thugs, who are of course going to go straight back into their combat. So hopefully the members of the Fellowship can win again, but then win priority, pin down these thugs and make some advances. So Steve wants to start with exactly the same again. We've got Gimli versus the Rohirrim thug. What does the thug get? He gets a 3. Gimli nails it with a 4. So once again, the thug is knocked to the ground. Next up, thug who has stood back up on the logs. He's going to try again. Has he learnt from his mistake? He rolls. Gets a 6. But Aragorn gets a 7 with his +2. So once again, that thug, as he is trapped by the other, is going to be knocked down on the log. He didn't learn from his mistake. And we're going to move on to the next combat. Here's the overhead shot of the hall. And it is, of course, Aragorn versus Gamling. So, can Aragorn do it again? Gamling rolls. Gets a 2. And Aragorn, the mighty hero, gets it. So once again, Gamling is battered to the floor. And once again, that means it's going to come down to a key priority roll-off. We are going into turn 10. So, can they do it? I'm going to roll. I get a 3, it's not great. But you roll a 1!
Yes!
Oh, you get a 4! And the thugs get it again! Ah! And I think you guys know the score here, of course. All of the thugs and Gamling are all going to stand up, getting themselves ready for exactly the same combats once again. So come on. I need that priority after I win these fights. We've got to win the fights first. We've got Gimli versus Thug. What can happen? Come on, cool Steve, roll badly.
Oh, jinx man.
Gimli takes it. So, Thug will be replaced with knockdown dice template. So next up we are going to do Aragorn versus Thug. Aragorn versus Thug? Yep. So Aragorn versus Thug, what do you get?
That'll do.
Get a 6, it's good. But I get that 7 again. Aragorn pulls it out of the bag. And the guy on the logs, he's not being slain, he's being parried back constantly, back over the logs. And that leaves us with Aragorn versus Gamling. So will Gamling be defeated again? Let's see. What do you get? Steve rolls. Gets a 6. Yes. You get a 1. And that does mean that Aragorn will be pushed back, so he will go 1 square back, level with Legolas. And here we go. I'm still quite happy as long as I get priority here. So, what do we get? You roll. 4. And I roll. No! Oh, come on! And it's going to go to Grima and his thugs. So of course the thugs are going to stand back up. This one over here, adjacent to Gimli, stands back up ready to fight again, as he has not been pinned to the floor. And the next one in front of the logs is going to do the same as well. And in the ensuing chaos, Gamling is going to advance forward to take on Aragorn. Is Grima going to move?
Yeah,
Grima's going to move forward 1 grid as well. So as you can see, the 3 hunters and Gandalf the White are really struggling to get out. And there are big reasons for this. Some of you might be watching this and thinking, this is really unbalanced and all this kind of thing. It really isn't, actually. It's actually quite a good little board game in a lot of ways. But the key thing is getting priority after you've knocked down those thugs for the good player. So, we're going to start things off with Gimli. Gimli is going to take on that 1 thug again. So, what do you get? 2. and Gimli takes it. So once again, you are going to be battered down to the ground, but are you going to stay there? That's the key thing. Next up, the thug who had been battering Aragorn from the logs is now going to try and take a swipe at Legolas. So we need to roll. What does the thug get?
Oh,
It's a 1, so it's going to go to Legolas.
Yeah.
So he is going to get knocked back into the fire
yep.
and going to be replaced with a knockdown dice. And what seems to be a battle of all ages here, we have got Gamling, who is taking on the might of Aragorn once again. So, Gamling. What does Gamling get? It's good. But it's not as good as that, and as a result, Gamling is trapped. So Gamling is going to be knocked down on the floor and be replaced with the knockdown dice marker. And that is the haul there of the King of Rohan. What's important here, of course, is the priority. So, what do you get? Steve's laughing. Give it a good roll, nice and high. None of this little spinning stuff, about 2 inches off the table. Here we go. 6, or at least a buy. Oh, it's glorious news! Glorious news! And of course, priority now is going to go to the forces of good. So you're going to see something here. Gimli is now going to walk forward, and he is going to go on top of that dice there. And that's he's going to go on top of that dice there, and that's going to represent him pinning down the Rohirrim thug. Next up, Legolas is going to move forward, and he's actually going to move his 2 squares forward. Remember, he's an agile elf, and he can move 2. So he's going to move up, and he's going to pin down the warrior that's on the fireplace. And next up, Aragorn's going to move forward, and he's going to put his foot on Gamling's throat after everything that's been going on and pin him there. And at this point, Gandalf the White is going to move 1 square out to the side like so. So with all those moves being done, there is nothing left for it but to go to the combats. So of course Aragorn here is engaging against Grima, and we're going to do that one first. Now Grima gets -1 to his dice roll, so you're going to roll, and what do you get? You get a 3. Okay, it's not bad. And Aragorn is going to roll. He gets a 5 and he takes it. So Grima will back away a square. There we go. And then he'll be replaced, and he is going to be knocked down like so. And next up we've got Gimli versus 1. So we've got Gimli versus 1 here. So what happens? You're going to roll. You get a 3. Gimli gets a 4, which becomes a 5, and that means that warrior, he is going to move back 1 square and be knocked down to the ground. Here we go. So this is how it is looking. As you can see, lots of the thugs have been knocked down. Most of them are pinned, apart from Grima and one of the thugs back there. Hopefully this gives Gandalf the White a little bit of a chance to get himself in and do his business. So we've got next turn priority. Not as important, this one, it has to be said. Let's see what happens. You roll, you get a 3. And it's a 6, so it's going to go to the fellowship guys. So first up, I'm going to get Gimli, and Gimli is going to go, and he's going to stop pinning that guy and get into that position there. And that having happened, Gandalf the White is going to move up 1 square behind Aragorn there. So that's all I'm going to do there. So we go back over to the Rohirrim thugs of Grima Wormtongue, and he's going to of course stand up his thugs who are no longer pinned. So this guy is going to stand up there and immediately becomes engaged with Gimli, and this guy's going to stand up here and immediately become engaged with Legolas and Gimli. There we go. And also we have got Grima Wormtongue down here. He's going to stand up, and of course he can't do any further moves, so he is just going to stay in his position back there. Nothing left for it but to go to the combat phase. So the first combat we're going to do is actually Legolas, who, remember, he stood on the thug and pinning him down into the embers of the fire. Can't be very comfortable, it has to be said. He's going to be taking on the thug there and trying to batter him back across the table. So we do need to roll. Does Legolas take it? You roll your dice and you get a 4, it's not bad. +1 on this, and it's a good job. So that thug, he's going to be battered backwards over the table. I'm going to place the dice there to represent that he's been knocked down. Next up, it's Gimmers. Gimmers taking on this thug. Can he knock him back towards the entrance of the door, try and get him out of the way? That's what we want. You get a 2, it's not good. We get a 2 and we take it on the +1. So he's going to be moved a grid square back towards the door, and then replaced, of course, with our knockdown marker, the HGG dice. There we go. That's our board. That's how it's looking in the halls of the King of Rohan. Here we go. Who's going to get it? It falls off of your fingers, you get a 3. And I get a 2. So it's going to go to you. Oh, that's not good. So first things first, this Rohirrim thug stands back up. And we're just going to place him on top of the table. There. And this one by the door, he's just going to stand himself back up. And stay still back there. So with Grima staying still and the other thugs getting up, and of course the one down in the fire still being pinned and Gamling being pinned, we're going to go into the movement of the forces of good, and Gimli is just going to be moving up 1 grid up into this space there to start things off. So first things first here as well, Aragorn is going to move 1 forwards towards Grima, trying to engage him there. That's it. And he goes there. And then Gandalf the White is going to move 1 grid square forward, and he is going to pin down Gamling. So you can see how that works there. So Aragorn's getting ever closer to King Theoden, and he's going to be fighting against Grima Wormtongue here. So -1, remember, for Grima. What does he get? He rolls and gets a 1, which means I am going to win. So he's going to move back, and he's going to be all the way at the back here now, knocked down. He can't go any further back. So I'm not sure what happens there in the rules. But with that, we're going to go into the next fight, which is, of course, our favourite dwarf, Gimli. I'll say my favourite, but dwarf is probably mine. Fighting against the Rohirrim thug. Here we go. So, what does the thug get? On the table, gets a 6. He's got the height advantage there, you see, but don't worry, because Gimmers is going to roll a 6. No, he doesn't, he rolls a 3. Now, I do need to roll a 4+ here, otherwise he's going to go down onto his bum. He'll be knocked down because he's being trapped by Legolas. He can't move back onto that square. Okay, so on a 4+, he doesn't. So Gimli is going to be knocked down, and we're going to replace him with one of the white HGG dice now. So some serious, precarious balancing there from Steve and myself. We've got an important priority here. We need Gimli to stand back up. So, not been going too well for me on the priority front, but I believe. Do you believe? Vote now. Let's go. Steve rolls. He gets a 4. It's alright, but it's not as good as this! Oh, it's fantastic news! And priority goes to Gandalf the White and the 3 hunters. So that key priority there, we're going to do all of the moves here. As you can see, Legolas is going to be moving down into that position. And then Gandalf is actually going to spring off of Gamling, who he's been pinning down, and he's going to go and pin down the thug on the fire, freeing up Aragorn to move 1 space back, and he will then pin down Gamling. So as you can see, making a little bit of progress there, requiring a little bit of finesse with the movement, and that's going to be it for the forces of good. We're going to go to the forces of evil. And the Rohirrim thug here is just going to be moving 1 grid up this way towards the action, and Grima Wormtongue will of course just be standing up there. So there's only 1 fight to do here, and that is Gimli versus that thug. It's quite an important fight, really, so let's see how it goes. So Gimli versus the thug on the table. Thug had the height advantage before, but I think that Gimli is used to giving away height advantages. I think he'll take him this time now, he's got his measure. So you roll, get a nice roll, you roll a 5, it's good, but it's not as good as this. Yeah, now I've got it, Okay, so of course he's going to be moved back and knocked down. So as we start going into turn, what turn will it be? Turn 17? 16. So we're going into turn 16 now. It's looking much, much better for the Fellowship members. It's looking better, but he's still quite far away from the king, so we need a good priority here, I think. Let's roll and see what we get. You get a 4, it's okay. Oh, it's off the table. Oh, it gets a 2, so he's going to go to evil. So first things first, the thug that was knocked off of the table stands back up, and he's moving up 1 grid to engage with Gimli. And Grima is going to advance 1 forward here. So Grima has moved up to the centre tile, and Legolas is now going to make a little bit of room for Gimli, so Gimli doesn't get trapped again, and he's just going to be moving onto the fireplace there. So there are a number of combats that can be going on here, and of course priority did go to who?
Yeah, do Leggy first.
So we're going to do the Leggy versus Grima first. So you got -1, I got +1. Okay, so you roll 1. That's 6, so you got 5. I got a 5 as well. Okay, so it's a roll off. So on a 1 to 3 this goes to you, on a 4 to 6 it goes to me. And luckily it goes to me, otherwise Legolas would have been knocked down because Gandalf is trapping him. So Grima is going to move back to the starting position now, and he's going to be knocked down on the floor. So they're still throwing those punches, swinging away at each other. We've got Gimli versus this thug who's got himself back into the fight. So, +1 for Gimli of course, but what does the thug get? Gets a big roll, gets a 6, but it's okay. Ooh, it's not okay. Gimli is going to be pushed back. No, he's not, because he's going to roll on a 4+. He's not pushed back. No, he is pushed back. So he is going to move up 1 back, so that he is next to Legolas. This is our Hall Edoras, the great hall of the Kings of Rohan. We need to roll for a priority, don't we? So, who's going to get it?
It's not good.
It's definitely not good for you. It's going to go to Gandalf the White and friends. And Legolas is going to move first, and he's going to go and sit and pin down Grima. And Gandalf is going to hop off of his thug, and he's going to move 1 place up, 1 space into the fire next to Gimli. So Gimli's going to move forward, and he's going to go and combat that thug there. So that's going to give the guy in the fireplace a chance to stand up, and we're going to put him in, replacing the dice now. And the Rohirrim thug, who was on the other side of the table, is clambered back over it to assault Gimli. So Gimli is currently being assaulted on 3 sides. So here's how it's looking. So I'm going to start off the combats because I am in charge, and I'm actually going to start off with the Gandalf the White versus the Thug in the Fire, because Gandalf the White automatically loses his fights, which is going to help me advance up 1 place here behind Legolas. So that's really what we want. So next up, we are going to go for Gimli versus this Thug who is closest to the entrance. So we're going to roll for that. Who's going to take it? You get a 4. I get a 3, which goes to a 4, which means it's going to be a roll-off. Now on a 1 to 3, this goes to the Force of Evil, but on a 4, 5 or 6, it's going to go to Gimmers. Ooh. And it goes to Evil. So we have to roll to see whether he gets knocked back or not. He does. So Gimli is going to move back 1 inch onto that grid square there, and that is going to end the combats, of course. Oh no, it's not, because we've then got the Thug on the Fire versus Aragorn. So we've got Thug on the Fire versus Aragorn. This could be quite handy. What do you roll? You get a 5, Aragorn gets +2, remember?
Ooh.
And he gets a 6. So you're knocked back into the space where Gimli was, and you will be replaced with our knockdown marker dice. Gandalf the White is getting closer and closer to Theoden, just 1 square away from being able to contest Saruman for the King's Mind. So we have got a priority roll for turn number 18?
18, yeah.
We're on turn number 18, so only 7 turns to do this now. You get 3, it's not great.
Ooh.
But it's better than that, so it's going to go to you. So really here, not much to do other than stand this thug back up and face off against Gimmers. And the guy who was on the bench, he has just moved across, so he is also getting Gimli from behind the column there. So that's it for the thugs, unless you're going to move him. Yeah, you're going to move him onto the logs. So moving him across onto the logs. So. And that ends the evil movement. So that is our Hall of Theoden King, and we're going to go over to the good movement now. So Legolas is actually going to move next to Gandalf there with his agile elf rule, and that's going to give Gandalf the White an opportunity to go and stand on Grima, who is proper grovelling right now, and get himself adjacent to the king. Here we go. So this is going to be the first turn where Gandalf the White has an opportunity to wrestle for the mind of King Theoden of Rohan, King of the Mark. Now that happens after combat, so we do have combat first of all, and we're going to be starting off with the guy behind the column who is going to be trying to take out Gimli. So we do have a roll here, and what do you get? Rohan Thug gets a 1, so I take it. And that means he is going to be knocked back, and he's going to be right in the corner there, knocked down. And seeing his friend be knocked back unconscious against the corner of the hall, the next thug is going to give it a go. Okay, so he rolls.
Oh my days.
So he gets knocked back, and he's going to be knocked back 1 square up here next to the guy on the wood, and of course then replaced with a HGG dice to show that he has been knocked down. There we go. So there we go. Because that's the end of the combats, we now have a very special moment. We have Gandalf the White, who will try and free the mind of the king. Now what's important here, it's a straight up roll off, and effectively Gandalf the White has to win 2 of these in a row. That's the key thing here, okay, versus Saruman. So Saruman is wrestling for Theoden's mind here, and he sets the bar with a mighty, it's a 5, it's pretty good, but Gandalf the White rolls a 6! Oh. Now that's 1. And we are going on to turn 19, remember. So what is important is that Gandalf does that again next turn. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we've got nothing left to do but to roll for turn 19 priority. Only 6 turns for the forces of good to save Rohan. You roll.
It's good.
and it's going to go on. Did you get it last time?
I had it last time.
You had it last time, so 6.
Ooh.
It's a 5, so it is going to go to the thugs. So the first action is of course to stand up the thug in the corner, and then the thug who is next to the guy on the logs. And then he is just going to move adjacent to Aragorn, who has continued to pin down Gamling, really holding him, pinning him to the floor to stop him from getting involved. So that is the moves for the forces of Grima Wormtongue. We're going to go over to the moves of the 3 hunters. Gimmers is going to run up, and he is going to try and push back that thug there. And then Legolas is just going to go 1 across, just as a bit of a blocking action there. So that's it for the moves for turn 19. Only 6 turns to go. We've got a combat to do, or 2. And I'm going to start thinking, oh, you got priority, did you? You got priority. So which one would you like to do?
Let's do Aragorn.
So you can do Aragorn versus that one thug there, first of all. They're just through the rafting. So here we go. You've got a dice. Are you going to free up Gamling?
No.
No, you're not. So you will be moved back 2 squares. 2 lots of squares, and you will be replaced by the knockdown dice. So can Gimli protect Gandalf the White as he does his thing? Let's see. So you roll for the thug. The thug gets a 5. It's pretty good. Remember, Gimli gets +1.
Oh my!
And he does it with a HGG 6. So once again, he's going to get thrown back across the hall. The mighty dwarf has taken it. He's thrown a headbutt to the groin. And that means that combats are over. So to win the game, Gandalf must wrestle with the will of Saruman.
Come on, Saruman.
For the mind of the king. Who will triumph? Will it be Saruman, or will it be Gandalf the White? Gandalf the White wins this. The forces of good win the game. What does Saruman get? It's not fantastic. Here we go.
Come on, 1. Come on, 1.
No, it's a 6!
Yeah!
No, it's a 1! This is terrible news!
I'll cross that off, yeah.
You needs to be home for 6, pal. Or 5. And there we go. So, unfortunately, Gandalf has been beaten back, which means we need to roll for turn 20 priority. So, here we go. You roll your dice. And it is going to go to the forces of good. So it was my priority, so Gimli has moved 1 square towards the fallen thug there, who will be standing himself back up, and Legolas has moved across. But everybody else has stayed the same. We have got Aragorn, of course, still pinning down Gamling, and Gandalf the White trying to do his business to free the mind of the king, who will triumph. So of course we must stand up the thugs. That thug is of course going to move forward and engage Legolas, and this thug is going to stand up and be replaced by the appropriate model. And then finally this thug is going to do the same. This is the halls of Meduseld. We're going to go on to the combats. So remember that Warrior of Rohan there is currently adjacent to Legolas. So they are going to scrap it out, and Legolas is going to try and push him back in the corner. So Steve rolls his dice, gets a terrible result. Gets a 4, and I get +1 on this.
Ooh.
But Legolas is going to get knocked back. So Legolas is going to move back in front of the fireplace there. And luckily he's not knocked down. So can Gimli do his business? Let's go for it. So it's Gimli versus Thug. You roll, you get a 2. Gimli takes it. So you of course will be knocked back again. Next to the bench, the Warrior of Rohan is removed, and the HGG dice goes in there to represent you being knocked down. So Gimli doing a pretty good job there. So Gandalf, he needs to be doing this, okay? So effectively just roll-offs. Just needs to win 2 roll-offs in a row. Saruman rolls, gets a 5. It's pretty good, but it's a 6! No, it's not. So it's another turn where Gandalf the White hasn't done the business. And we're going on to turn 21 now. So we do need to roll for priority. Who is going to get it? In this special Restore the King, Hotcakes Gaming, Battle Report, Adventures in Arda, you get a 5, and I get a 1. So it's going to go to Evil. So he is just going to move out from behind the column and face off against Legolas. This thug is just going to stand up next to the bench there. And the final thug to move is just going to move forward and again try and free the captain of the guard, Gamling. Gimli is going to move back 1 load of squares. And Steve wants to start things off with the Aragorn combat. So can Gamling be freed by the thug? The thug is going to roll, and what is he going to get?
Oh, come on.
He can't win, he can't win. Remember, this is turn 21, not many to go. He is going to be backed away and again replaced by the HGG dice, and we're going to go straight into the next combat. Of course, we've got Thug versus Legolas. +1 for Legolas. Is he going to need it?
There he goes. Oh.
He doesn't. So the Thug is going to be knocked back behind the column there, and we're going to replace him with the dice. So just like the scenes in the movie, Gandalf the White is trying to free the mind of King Theoden. He almost got it before but failed. This will be his 4th attempt. Let's have a little look. Saruman, big roll. It's a 5, it's good. He's rolled a lot of 5s. Gandalf needs a 5 because he only has to equal it. He gets a 4 and he's not going to do it on turn 21, which means he's leaving it late as we go into turn 22. This is the Hall of Meduseld, the Hall of Kings, the Hall of the Rohirrim, the Horse Lords, Riders of the Plains. Priority's going to go to Grima Wormtongue. So the first action, of course, was to stand up the Thug there, and we've got some more standing up to do because, of course, we have the Thug who was beaten back by Aragorn before. Aragorn, of course, just staying down, pinning down Gamling. He's doing his job. He knows what he needs to do. And then, of course, we're going to move this Thug forward 1 grid there, facing up towards Gimli. So we're going to go to the movement for the 3 hunters and Gandalf the White. And Gimli's just going to move back 1 here. It doesn't make him adjacent, unfortunately, to the Thug there. But Legolas is going to stay where he is, and so is Aragorn. So there won't be any combats. That means we've got one thing to do. So far it's 3-1 to Saruman. Gandalf the White not showing his powers. So this is turn number 22 at the moment. So here we go. Really, Gandalf Knight needs to be doing this.
Come on, Saruman.
Big roll. So 4, it's not bad, but it's not as good as this HGG 6. It's a 1. So currently, in terms of the roll-offs here,
I'll get the next 2.
I've got to win the next 2. No, 23, 24, so it's got to be 24 and 25, isn't it? So it can only afford to lose 1 more.
Yeah.
Can only afford to lose 1 more. Gandalf has lost 4 of these now. 4 to 1. It's our hall. This is how it's looking. The 3 hunters are doing their job, but so far Gandalf the White has been unable to free King Theoden. The will of Saruman. Rohan is ready to fall, my lord. Does it happen though? We roll a dice.
Oh, come on.
And it's going to go to the 3 hunters. And Gimli is just going to move back there and engage against that Thug there. And the rest of the forces of good are staying where they are, which leaves the Thugs just to move up 1 grid each, which means there will be a couple of combats here. We've got Aragorn versus Thug, and we've got Gimli versus Thug as well. Going to start things off with Aragorn. Will Aragorn beat him back again? Keeping with 1 hand, gambling on the floor, but with the other, wrestling with the Thug, striking out. Let's have a little look. Get a 4. Oh, ooh, and Aragorn is knocked back. Ooh. This is terrible, terrible news. So with Aragorn being knocked back, it will possibly free up Gamling to stand up next turn. And Gamling, of course, a key piece for Grima Wormtongue and the Thug forces. It's looking very, very precarious here. Will it be a lot? Seriously, I mean, will this come down to turn 24 and 25? It's actually turned out reasonably balanced, this game, I have to say. So we're enjoying it very much. Very, very different from just playing SBG, of course, and very fiddly in the terrain, but it looks gorgeous. I hope you guys can agree and you're really enjoying this showcase battle report on Hotcakes Gaming. We've got Gimli here versus the 1 Thug who is back there. The Thug is going to roll and gets a mighty 2, which means Gimli wins. Just. And that, of course, is going to knock the Thug back into the corner, so we'll replace him with the dice. And that means that we've only got 1 more thing to roll here. Gandalf the White versus Theoden. This is the only one that Gandalf the White can afford to lose, but we would rather not leave it until the last turn, okay? So, Saruman sets the bar, does a big spin.
Oh!
With a 6. The only way Gandalf the White can do this is by getting a 6. What do you think, people? Pause your video, comment below. Otherwise, it does definitely come down to what happens next turn. Oh, 6! No, it couldn't be further from the truth. Gandalf the White has lost 5 of the 6 roll-offs versus
Stuff
Saruman.
is broken.
And Saruman's not, though. So here we go. That is how the Hall of Meduseld is looking. Hope you guys are enjoying this visual cake of Lord of the Rings awesomeness. Let's roll for turn 24, the penultimate turn. Gandalf cannot afford any more failures. This is really tense. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Oh, come on!
It's going to go.
Gambling, man.
Outstanding news. So Gambling is going to get pinned, of course, because it's going to go to the 3 hunters. And Gimli is just going to be advancing up 1 here to face off against that thug. And of course Aragorn is just going to be moving up, pinning Gambling and taking on the thug down there. And of course, as part of Steve's move, he's going to stand up his thug who got battered into the corner of the room before by the Son of Gloin. So we are going to start off things with Gimli here, who is going to be fighting against the thug who he's faced off against there. Let's have a little look. What's going to happen? Thug rolls.
Oh, it's good.
It's pretty good.
It's a cracker.
It's not as good as this though. It's the tension. I know that it's all go. Oh, it is. Now, does he get knocked back on a 4+? Gimli, Stoic Dwarf, does not get knocked back, but he does. So Gimli's just going to move back next to Legolas there, and that means that we're going to move on to Aragorn. Isildur's heir himself is at it again, pinning down Gambling and fighting off a thug with the other hand. He failed last time, but he's been doing quite well so far. So, what does the thug get? Thug sets the bar with a 2. And of course, I need to save this for the next roll. So of course the thug is going to be knocked back on the floor, a couple of spaces back, and that leaves us with one thing to do. Here it is, turn 24. Turn 24. If Gandalf the White doesn't do this, then unfortunately Theoden's mind has been fully taken, and therefore Rohan will fall, and everything else that happens after that will happen. So turn 24, there's only one more turn for Gandalf the White to do this. He must win this roll. He must, I cannot stress enough, he must win this roll. Will he do it? We shall see. So we're going to come out because Steve is going to start off and roll his dice representing Saruman back in Orthanc.
Oh, it's not good.
It's not amazing. Okay, so Gandalf the White will need a 3+ here. A 3 or more. To take it on to turn 25, to the final turn. Oh! He doesn't do it! It's a 2! And Gandalf the White, boof, has been beaten back. His efforts have been in vain. And oh no, Grima Wormtongue and Saruman in conjunction have managed to prevent Gandalf the White from wresting from Theoden's mind the power of Orthanc. Fantastic, fantastic report there in Meduseld. I hope you enjoyed seeing this very special scenario from, of course, the Battle Games in Middle-earth, episode 51, magazine number 51, of course, where it's got all these pieces in. There's nothing left to do, I don't think, but let's give this battle report a little round of applause, and we're going to go. Thank you very much. And let's get ourselves into a post-battle bat rep breakdown. Thanks, everyone. Oh my days. Oh my days. Welcome to the post-battle bat rep breakdown for that very special Restore the King scenario there, taken of course from Battle Games in Middle-earth. That was incredible.
It was good, it was a good game, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was really, really good fun. So, the way that game works, it's a little bit more like a board game, isn't it? And it does work on a grid. And we had to really plan this out before we actually did this. We couldn't do it straight from the book, could we, Steve?
No. The terrain, although, I mean, that was all for your benefit really, the terrain, because it looks awesome, looks really, really cool. But ideally you want it open so you can get in and move things around and keep track of where you're up to. But yeah, it's well worth having a go, I think. Yeah, I mean, we definitely did that for the look of the bat rep, and we hope you enjoyed being here in the Hall of Meduseld with us. From a gaming point of view, obviously pretty tough getting around, and off camera there was certainly a lot of cursing as our models fell over and were getting chipped and the like. But we did find little ways around that, which was pretty cool. And actually it worked quite well, so although you're not playing SBG, you still get a little bit of a feel of SBG, because barring fight value, it's still that idea that you've got lots of kind of dice rolls and roll-offs and the like, which was pretty good. And there are a couple of key little tactics in there, aren't there, that you've got to really focus on, that we saw in there. So I think up until, I think maybe even turn 15-ish.
It was quite late on when you actually broke through, I think.
Yeah, and a big part of that comes down to, it's not just about winning the fights, it's about, as the good player, winning the fights and then getting the subsequent priority so you can go over and you can pin your opponent to the ground and start making progress. And that's what you really need to do. And I think up until that point I was pinned right back to the door. You kept on winning the combats, my dice rolling was pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
And then things kind of spun from turn 15-ish onwards, didn't it?
Once you, because the evil side, you've not got the heroes that you have, which have got the extra movement or extra dice modifiers. And the only person you've got really that's decent in combat is Gambling. So if Gambling gets knocked down and gets pinned, it really, really limits what the evil side can do. And you were able to do that to good effect. And I was struggling, and it was just a case of just trying to tie you up and hold you back, really. And you're terrible dash rolling with Gandalf, aren't you?
Well, yeah, and then we got to that point at the end, and we were getting up to turn 18, turn 19, turn 20, when it looked like Gandalf really, he would, on odds, you would think that maybe he would get 2 of those in a row. But barring the first one, he then continued to lose 6 of the 7 rolls.
Yeah.
And of course, the key one at the end there in turn 24. Now, it would have been epic if he'd have won that one and it had gone down to the last turn, but I think it was pretty epic anyway. Just a shame that he couldn't pull it out the bag there and take it for the forces of good. We hope that you really enjoyed that, the effort behind this particular battle report for Adventure in Arda. And for all of the reports going forward, we want to continue to up the standard and give you guys something more in terms of the lighting, in terms of the setting, and in terms of the way that we approach creating this. So if you want to see us continue to improve what we're giving you here on Hotgates Gaming, whether it's for Adventure in Arda or any of the battle reports in the future, make sure you check the links in the video description below and back the Patreon, because that's going to allow us to keep on moving forwards. And it only has to be like $1 a month or something, doesn't it, Steve? Okay guys, so really hope you enjoyed that Restore the King, and it'll be interesting to see what we do next time here on Hotgates Gaming for Adventure in Arda. Look forward to seeing you soon, guys. We've had a good game, haven't we, Steve?
Really good game.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Hope you guys out there are having a good game, and we're going to see you in the next episode.